This is an interview for the Music Inclusion Coalition, also known as Mike. I'm Nora, the executive director and co founder. And today we're going to be talking with Shayna. If you want to introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Shaina Rush. I'm a fife musician in the United States Army Old Guard Fife and Drum Corps, and a flutist, classically trained. I've been in the Army for about 2 years, and I've had a lot of other music careers, but this is where I'm at right now.
Cool. I think one thing that struck me as so interesting when we spoke originally was that you just don't see a lot of women in the Army in general, especially in the army bands. I think that's an even smaller kind of subsect. So how did you end up there? What was that process like? How was boot camp? Um, kind of all of those questions.
Okay, yeah, those are always the big questions. First of all, boot camp, that's always the biggest question. Especially coming in as a musician, I was not athletic, never have been athletic. And so I had to learn how to kind of push myself physically when I went to boot camp. It really wasn't as bad as I expected. I think it was good for just growing mentally and physically. And it was only a few, like 10 weeks. So after that, everything's been pretty smooth. The way I heard about the army bands was, if you're familiar with the special bands in Washington D.C. area, they always post different vacancies. So just like any other vacancy you'd see for an orchestra, you'll get a vacancy for the field band. We have four, so there's the field band, the Old Guard Fife and Drum Corps, the United States Army Band, and then there's the West Point Band, which is at West Point in New York. So I saw the field band audition posted. I went and auditioned. I went to the live round, but I didn't win that position. So they had a recruiter who said, "Hey, we like the way that you played, and instead of doing a regional audition, we'll count this. We'll give you a good stipend, or it was either a bonus or paying my student loans for joining." And I was like, "Student loans? I have a lot of those. So yes, where do I sign?" So I started in a regional band in El Paso, Texas, Fort Bliss. I was there for 1 year, and then I had heard about the Old Guard through somebody else at my field band audition, and I had never heard of it before. I thought it was crazy that they wore these colonial outfits and wigs and played the fife. Like it was just crazy to me. But the more I learned, the more I was like, I really want this job. Like this is a good challenge. It's different from what I've been doing for the last 15, 16 years on flute. And so once they had a vacancy, I was able to audition. And then I got this position in November and moved out here in February. So,
Wow, that is really cool and exciting. So with all of that, so you mentioned the outfits. Tell me more about this whole historic element that you have to it because that is super unique to this particular ensemble.
yeah, I don't think there's any other unit like this or any, that does this. But what my unit does is we represent kind of the army and its historical um, image, and we do a lot of things that the Continental Army practice. So the way we march, the way that we call commands, and we have fixed bayonets, and it's not exactly a replica of what happened back during the Revolutionary War, but we try and uphold some of those traditions. And I'm learning a lot actually. This has been totally foreign to me up until now. But one thing that was exciting to learn was that the field music, which field musicians were responsible for going out with the commander and communicating certain commands to like the unit, like fire or forward, attention, things like that. And it was often people of color, or younger men who were white, or it's just a very diverse collection of people who were doing this, and a lot of people don't really know that. So that's what I love about field music. I hope more people can become more familiar with it.
Yeah, I thought that was super cool when you originally told me some of the historic elements of this ensemble because I had no idea that any of this existed. I've heard of army bands and various units, but I had no idea that there was anything like this, and it's so interesting and unique, and I thought it was so cool. So tell me about other parts of your career. How did you end up here? How did you get into music? How did you decide that was the career you wanted? Kind of all of that leading up to this.
Sure. Um, I'm only 27 years old, but it feels like I've had like 5 lifetimes leading to where I am now. When I was in high school, I was the ultimate band nerd. I was always taking band classes, staying after school, getting there early to practice because I was just a super nerd. I loved it. So by the time I graduated, it was no question that I would go into music. And I only knew of either becoming a performer or becoming a music teacher, like a band director. Um, I was good at the flute, I was like, this is, it came easily after a while because I spent so much time at the beginning learning. So I thought, sure, I'll be a performance major. And then later throughout college, I thought, sure, I'll be an ed major. And I think I flipped back and forth like 4 times when I was in college. I settled on performance and I just decided, okay, I don't really know what jobs are entailed when you're going into performance because it's such a vague degree. But I just did my best, tried to network when I was in college, and then went on to grad school actually. I wasn't able to finish my degree, and so I learned some skills. I tried to apply them when I had to go get a job, and that led me to just exploring music. So first, I worked in a music store for about 3 years as an instrument repair technician. That was awesome. It's my favorite thing to do, actually. I didn't think I would have the skills to learn that or, the capacity to learn it. But that was a cool field that I had the pleasure of being an apprentice for. So I did that for a few years. I also taught Music Together, which is a music class for parents and their infants to like maybe 5 years old. So that was fun, just teaching kids how to move their bodies and watching them develop. I was a career counselor at one point. That was kind of random. And then I worked at Music and Arts as a sales associate. I worked at a high end flute repair shop. Like, I did everything. And I eventually ended up kind of getting burned out from flute because I wasn't finding any opportunities with that. So I put it away. Um, and one day there was just a field band posting, and the person that I was with, my partner at the time, was like, "You should take this audition." And I was like, "I have not played the flute, and it had been about 2 years." So I was like, "I have not played in so long, but I guess I should have something to work towards. I don't really have anything else to do." So I just put in a tape for that, and it went better than I thought. And then I got offered the position with the regional band, so it was kind of the rest was history.
That is super cool. Fun fact, my first real job was also at Music and Arts. Um,
Wow.
but that's all. I mean, yeah, that's also interesting in that kind of multifaceted career path. Did you ever work like multiple elements of like multiple jobs at the same time where you were teaching and playing and doing these things, or did you kind of focus on one thing at a time?
I did everything at once. I think at one point I had 5 different jobs going at the same time. And I guess one part I didn't mention was that I also studied music therapy in grad school for a little bit. And during that time, I worked at the archives for the music therapy program. And then, I was doing programs with people with special needs or learning disabilities. And so all of those things piled on because I was one, just trying to pay the bills and coming up with little things to piece together. And then I was kind of figuring out what I liked. So I think at one point I was working 5 different jobs, and I was stretched thin, but it gave me an opportunity to really figure out where I wanted to go.
Awesome. So kind of you talked about that you kind of just knew you were going to go into music. You spent so much time in it in high school, as I feel like a lot of us that go into music do. You are that like super band geek.
Yeah.
As I'm sure all of us on this call I know can attest to. But how did I guess how did you go about the application process? Did you have a private lesson teacher? How did you decide on a college? Like, what did that whole process look like for you?
Let's see. So, I guess going into college was pretty unorthodox, or I don't know actually. I'm not sure if this is like the average experience when applying to college. I had a list of schools that I wanted to go to, and they were like Curtis, Juilliard, Peabody, all these big name schools. And then I would, when the time came to audition, I said, Mom, Dad, can I audition for these schools? And they were like, the plane ticket costs how much? And the application is how much? You're going to apply to the state schools and see what you can get. So I didn't have many choices when it came to going to schools because I just didn't have the means to apply to everything. So even when I got into a school, I didn't really get great financial aid because I wasn't sure what to look for. So that was definitely limited when I was doing my undergrad. I did have a private teacher that I was able to study with my senior year of high school. And I was like, I think that the way that I fell into music and really finding a successful career was ideal because I was pretty much self taught for most of my time. And then my senior year of high school, I wanted to be in the local orchestra, and they were going on this tour and overseas. So I was like, Mom, Dad, can I please do this? And they said, okay, we'll sign you up for lessons. And if you like do this concerto competition, they give you money and then you can join. So I didn't know how good I was. I just knew I loved the flute. I got lessons. She really set me up for success. I won the competition, and then I had a few more opportunities. So I definitely feel like that was just a fortunate thing that I was able to take advantage of kind of at the last minute. And then when I was in my undergrad, I had a few more opportunities because I was in a program called the McNair Post Baccalaureate Program, which is for students who are part of underrepresented populations, low income or first generation. And they paid for my applications to grad school. So that really opened up the door for other things at that point.
That's incredible. Do you have any idea if like that's kind of something that happens at a lot of schools, or was that like really specialized to your school?
I think the McNair program is growing. I forget what the parent program is, but the Ronald E. McNair program, if you're watching this and you can search it, it should come up for most universities, and it's growing because they really are just trying to get as many of us into higher education as possible.
That's awesome. That's definitely a great resource for people to know about. I had no
Hmm.
idea. That's so cool. I love that. What like what is the biggest piece of advice you'd give to a high schooler right now if they were looking to go to music school?
My biggest piece of advice is to take your time choosing which degree program you want to go into, which university or studio you want to study in, what kind of atmosphere. Like, really ask yourself what aspects of a learning environment fit you. I think when I was in high school, there was just a lot of noise as far as what I should do and what success looked like. But as I've grown older, I see that it doesn't really matter if you go to the top school in the country. It just depends on like who's going to foster your abilities and help you grow for the ways that you need to grow. So I guess the biggest thing is like really make sure that you're looking inward when it comes to choosing a school. Also, don't sell yourself short as far as getting funding because there's a lot of funding out there. And the way that the school systems are set up, loans are kind of a big push right now. Like get student loans and then you get out of college and you realize that they can be a bit of a burden. So really understand what finances will look like, how you'll get through college, how that's going to be paid off, and have a plan there. Because it's really worth just slowing down, even if you have to take a little gap year in between to get things sorted.
Yeah, I think that's really all great advice. I think the older you get, you really do realize that a lot of the prestige that you think certain things have, um, it's all so different when you're in your career and you're an actual adult. Things change a
Yeah,
lot.
they
uh,
do.
18-year-old me really thought that that I was gonna play euphonium forever. So here we are. I think that that's great advice to really emphasize that it's about your own personal growth and your own development as a person, and not necessarily like the same track as everyone.
Yeah.
Um, do you have different advice for someone that's maybe college age that's already in a performance or educational program?
Definitely. As musicians, we're responsible for figuring out how we're going to navigate our careers after college. And one thing I didn't really spend enough time on as an undergrad was networking and really setting up avenues of success. So the more people you know in that environment, and that's really the only time you're going to be surrounded by so many people who have your same interests and can really help you build. So I would take advantage of the people around you. And also just if you have a chance to take a business class while you're in your undergrad, or even in your graduate degree, really think about that, because it'll get your juices flowing as far as how you can apply your degree, because that's sometimes you just forget about that.
I agree with that so much. That's my biggest thing that I preach. You can ask anyone that knows me. That's the biggest thing I probably talk about. So I definitely push that really hard.
Yes.
Um, what about auditions? What advice do you have for someone that's taking auditions right now, either at the high school or the collegiate level? Is there a way that you feel really works for preparation? Are there things that you really wish that more people knew about? Things like that.
Sure. I actually just got to witness my first audition from the inside this week, because my unit, we had an audition process, and I got to see what the other side thinks when they come in and we can see them all nervous. And so, one piece of advice is to realize that the person on the other side of the screen is really hoping for you to succeed. That's the hardest thing for me, because as musicians, we'll go into performances and we're like, they played the wrong note, they were out of tune. And we'll be so judgmental. But usually, when you're on the professional end and you've kind of had your time to fumble and make mistakes, you're a lot more just rooting for the next person who's coming up. So I find that encouraging when I know that everyone's just wanting me to succeed, and I can really lean into that. Another thing for auditions is the more prepared you are, like over prepare as far as your music. Over prepare what's the worst thing that could happen. How are you going to recover? Because something will happen, and that's okay. And then make sure you wear something that makes you feel really confident and prepared, like you belong there. So those three things, I think, after so many auditions, are what I really harp on.
I think those are really great. I wish someone had told me those earlier. Uh, and just emphasize, I love your first point that it's really about that they want you to succeed. I feel like every time I've sat on the other side, that's something that really came across to me is like we're looking for someone to fix our problem. Like we have this opening, like we need
Yes.
someone to fix this problem for us. Please fill this void. We don't want to go through 1,000 applications and rounds and all of that. So I think that that's something that's just so interesting when you get to this side of it. You're like, "Oh, wait a second. No, we really want you to, like, do really well so that we don't
Right.
have to go through another round." It's a lot of time, so please just play really great. So I
Exactly.
think I think that those are all really great points. So I think we have quite a bit of material. So, to kinda wrap it up, why why are you still in music? You is that you've changed career a few times, and obviously it's not the easiest job in the world. We can again all attest to that.
Mhm.
What's kept you in it this entire time? Going from being a band geek in high school is such a different experience when you become a professional. Like, what is that thing that just keeps you going?
Honestly, I can remember so many times in my life where I didn't think music was worth pursuing, because people tell you it's a pointless degree. No one needs music. They need doctors, or they need this and that. But the more that I see people who are, in distress, or just who have nothing else, fall on music and lean on music and what we do, the more I think that we do really have a place in the world, and imagine what it would be like without us. Oh, okay. And sorry, my camera turned off for a second. Um, so I think that's something that brings me back to music is just realizing that I do have a purpose. And especially when I was doing music therapy, I got to see that one on one with people who couldn't even see or hear and how they were still able to enjoy the things that music could provide for them. And then another thing that's kept me back is I've worked other jobs and I've done things that made a lot of money or, pursued things that I guess seem prestigious. But I find it to be such a blessing that I can do what I love and get paid. My livelihood is my career, and a lot of people can't say that. So, if you're ever on the fence or wondering if it's worth all of the work to become a musician, if that's your livelihood and it brings you joy, like there are really not a lot of people who have that opportunity in life. So take advantage of it.
I think that that is a great way to wrap up an interview. I love it. It's cool. So this has been an incredible conversation. Um, and to check out more, where can they find you?
My Facebook is the best way to find me. It's Shay Shai and Rush. Right now my website's kind of under construction, so I'll be posting an updated version of that on my page there. And then of course you can email me, and I guess I can plug it here. It's shaina.i.rush@gmail.com. I'm happy to answer questions, anything that you have.
Great. And if you want to learn more about any of these subjects, feel free to reach out to us as well. You can find us at musicinclusioncoalition.com, or we are on all platforms at Music Inclusion Coalition. Help us continue to make music inclusive. And if you're a high schooler getting ready to audition or a collegiate student that needs help figuring out what's next, please reach out. We are always here to help, or we can connect you with awesome people like Shaina, who can also provide more insight. So please reach out if we can help you in any way.